And then there were the props. Any sci-fi show, there's going to be propage. It's all unique. It's something you've never seen before.
The props are insane, like insanely cool though, not insane like, oh.
The props on Power Rangers were really cool.
It helps explain the whole universe for an audience, and it also helps explain the whole universe for an actor or a character.
The reality, of course, is it's a plastic toy. But when you hold it, to me it wasn't a plastic toy. Like, this was a Power Ranger gun.
Anything the actor holds is a prop. If Billy comes into the command center and he's got a device, I have to have that device for him. If he has a watch, a communicator, anything like that is a prop. Normally, when I work on the bigger shows, we have companies build the props, but we didn't have that luxury. So when they needed a device to destroy the world, so on this show, which made it exciting and ridiculous, was I had to run out and come up with a device that destroys the world for the next episode. But luckily on Power Rangers, a slinky with a flashlight attached to it, spray painted green, could destroy the world.
Sometimes we would just write a device, a weapon, and he would just come up with something crazy and unique looking that we'd say, perfect, great, let's shoot it.
It was great because in the early days, I'd go to the swap meet or garage sales to find pieces to glue together with a hot glue gun. And then the episode would play. And then a month later, I'd be at that same swap meet and there'd be posters of the Power Rangers holding that device that I had bought at that swap meet. I mean, it was like a shower clock with a G.I. Joe piece on screwed to it. And you know what's funny about that is I would talk to kids as they got older, and they would go into the garage and take their toys and break them and make Billy props and spray paint it blue.
We would have these constant show and tells, we called them, where the prop guy you'd go to his prop department and he would show you, here's the zapper for this episode, and here's the morpher, and here's the ninja whatever.
He had everything laid out, and we were just looking at the morphers and our badges and the phasers. For me, being such a huge fan and growing up in the martial arts, I was just jaw-dropping, eyes open. I was like, oh my gosh. You know, and I'm looking, and we're like, can we touch, can we pick this stuff up?
The props department was one of my favorite departments to visit. One, because they had a ping pong table, and two, because they had just like all the toys. You know, you could just pick stuff up and start playing with it, and they were totally cool with it.
We never really got to hold anything for too long because, of course, the props department was making sure that we weren't playing around with things. They didn't want anything to break.
The prop department on Rangers kind of hated me, to be honest, because I fiddle with things. And I would just, in the middle of a take, I'd just pick up whatever was sitting on the table and be playing around with it, and then all of a sudden it would break. And I'd awkwardly try and put it to the side.
One day I went into the prop truck when my nephew came to visit, and I started pulling out some of like the bad guy weapons. The prop guy let me, but I got to show him, and he thought it was really cool.
Jason Frank, my problem with Jason Frank was, he would take it and go home with it. He would go, I want to show it to the kids at a party. So I'd come and I go, where's the, like the Green Ranger dagger? Oh, it's at my house. I'll bring it to you. But that was the only thing that he would do it. I shouldn't say they. Jason Frank would do it. But I'm still tight with him. He's still bugging me.
Ready? Storm, thunderstorm, major storm.
One of my favorite props was my morpher that I wore on my wrist because it was really cool.
Well, when we first learnt how to use our morphers, that was a great day because we all had these little things that we'd played with as kids, and then suddenly we're holding them and we're using them to morph into our Power Rangers.
Our morphers were cell phones before they were iPhones, so they were these flip phones. Those were kind of cool.
Our morpher spun, and you'd spin it up. There's a few times it's spinning off into the camera lens, spinning off into, poor old Glenn's eye. That could be troublesome, but that was also a lot of fun working with things like that.
Our morphers gave us the most trouble, definitely. Especially standing in formation with our morph, we have to do that swipe. So there were a few times that we got a little too close. One time, Najee got me in the face and broke the morpher in the process. There were times when it would slip out of our hands and just fly across set. Plus it comes out of the infamous Ranger pocket, which doesn't really exist, where you just kind of grab from behind. So you have to set it up in a way where it's just in your belt or in your back pocket, and that always makes for problems.
We still have some morphers laying around here, actually. So just for the kids have had them over the years, and we just never got rid of them, but we have a couple that are unopened.
I actually I gave mine away to an auction at the last MorpherCon because I had my actual one from SPD.
Mine actually had to be mended several times because I accidentally ripped it off. You lose your temper in the heat. Nobody's looking. You can't get it undone. It gets ripped. But we could just run to Walmart to get another one.
I had a great moment. We were second unit. We were shooting some thing somewhere else, and we had 3 units going. Well, on second unit, they needed morphers. I didn't have any morphers there. Literally went to, not Target, to Walmart, bought a bunch of morphers, and I'm thinking, what a great commercial this would be, you know, for Walmart, where the Power Rangers are waiting to morph, you know, and I'm scratching out his, you know, the American ones said Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and on what we did was it just says Power Rangers, and I'm putting on these paper stickers and driving, trying to get to the location. We got a lot of speeding tickets because our locations were always at parks. There were always these last second things, flying them up. But yeah, that did happen a couple times where I bought the toy at a store, took it to them, and then they morphed with the toys.
I think that's what's so cool is like people that buy the morphers, they're actually getting the morpher that we actually wore on the show. It's not like we had this special, you know, metal titanium thing that transformed you, you know. Well, of course we did, but you know, that's secrets. That's secrets.
Ours were sunglasses, which I thought were really cool.
The original morphers were meant to be the wrist morphers that they used in the Japanese, but they redesigned the morphers to sunglass morphers, solar morphers, which are awesome. So they were like a fully functional like sunglass that you could communicate with and also morph with.
When we did our morph, we flicked our heads, and I must have been really, really violent with my head flicking. I'm surprised I didn't get whiplash because I bashed off about 4 or 5 pairs of sunglasses, and someone told me like on about the 3rd pair, and it just chill out because they were about $500. And I was like, whoa! And suddenly I felt really, really bad and stuff like that. So then you might notice my morph's got a little ridiculous, like lamer.
They actually sticker taped them to her head so they wouldn't fall. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, they weren't. I don't think. I think they are like retail for $40 or something like this, and they've got a lot of them. So someone was taking the mickey, but yeah, they were fun. I liked having sunglasses at a morph.
All right, you want your car washed in 3 seconds? Simple. I think not.
There was some fun stuff to play with.
We had some great things to work with. We had some great weaponry.
I had this kind of axe thing. I got to throw that. I think I hit a crew member once by accident. I had to do this scene where I did like this kind of front roll, and I got up on my knees, and I'm supposed to throw this axe, and they're holding up a sheet with an X on it, and that's kind of my target, kind of off camera. So I throw the axe, and I just bonk the guy in the head, and he's like, oh, it's like bleeding. You know, I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hit you in the head. Like, felt terrible, but then we did it again, and I hit the X, but...
We had various props that we would use that you wouldn't expect to use as weapons that would be kind of the artful thing. Particularly, I remember Ziggy. I feel like he would grab spanners or, you know, he would incorporate the environment around him as weapons. So that was always really imaginative.
The Blue Ranger's gun in that season was gigantic. It was huge. But there was always amazing props. I mean, we had a pool table. We'd sit around in between shoots playing pool, and there was always stuff to play with.
I have a friend who makes fun of me. He'll oftentimes ask, why is your character's weapon a baton? What kind of weapon is a baton? And I'm like, shut up. I fought monsters with that baton, and I beat people up with it.
Our weapons were just amazing. Those spin swords, I couldn't stop playing with them.
The spin sword was one of my favorites, but it was quite heavy, so it was a little difficult to do our fighting scenes with that.
They were expensive, though. Each sword was like $10,000, and there was one day we broke 3 of them. Well, I didn't.
You could just see like how much care was put into keeping them perfect, and it's like we had to fight in them, and I'd be so scared to, you know, break it, or, you know, they'd freak out when you did, but, you know, what can you do? You're doing a fighting scene.
My character had the nunchucks, Yellow Ranger had the bow, so that I got to learn how to do nunchucks, which was awesome.
It was a challenge for me to try and have some weapons that were outside of the Sentai footage that would be unique to SPD, but that wouldn't promote violence, essentially. I kind of went more along the Star Trek influence with phasers that can be set on stun, but they weren't necessarily the action and shape of a gun.
Sort of resembled the USS Enterprise. It was like the way you held it.
I think we fired them 2 different ways because we didn't know whether we should fire them like that or like that.
I made it as more of a defensive device where it protected your arm so you can, you know, stop other things. It had a light, so it was like more utilitarian. I wanted to definitely have like some X-Files type moments where they were in the dark looking around. And then it just shot out a pulse, so there was no projectile. It seemed simple enough, but it was such a challenge. And to be able to pass it through the ranks and have all the standards and practices and the lawyers and the PTAs and everybody sign off on it because it is a reality. I think, you know, a lot of people I see on the Ranger board and something, they're like, why don't you do this? How come, you know, it didn't make any sense? There's all this stuff. I don't know if anyone else has talked about it on the interviews, but you just jump through hoops after hoops of people that are just trying to make the show not have a negative influence on children. And it's a strange subject. Any given episode is going to have some kind of kicking or punching or fighting or shooting or blowing up, explosions galore. So in the design process, trying to find a way to make these props that could be considered, you know, weapons and aggressive, but make them kind of seem safe and more defensive was something I really never had to deal with before. And I think what came out of it was some of the, you know, my favorite things that I've ever put to paper and then brought to physical life.
Jen, I'm picking up mutant DNA.
I see it too. Let's go. We would get these really great things, like, you know, like a watch that we'd have to pretend we saw a hologram on.
The communicator, you know, that was, you know, me and Yuta walking down Melrose and going, hey, this might work and this might, you know, I'm proud of that.
You know, I've been to conventions and people have had me sign them, and I found them on eBay and things like that. So much fun.
Those crystal balls that when we would get a Zord, these balls, we would do this and then, you know, they would stop the camera and then they would put it in our hands. It would be like it appeared. Those things were rad. I wanted to steal one.
I really loved working with my soccer ball, I gotta say. They let me do a lot of really awesome tricks that I'd kind of forgotten I knew how to do. In episode 1, I got to do that fun fight with the soccer ball, and we got to add some other stuff in there.
My personal area of prop favorites was over in my workshop. I got a bunch of stuff up in the loft, over in the corner. I had my workshop, and it was really cool. You know, I'd do that stuff in my spare time too, not creating things that are gonna zap people, but work with wood, so I know my way around tools. So it was cool to go in there and like pick up stuff and go in and just work your way around the workshop, find tools that they had in there and flick them around and sort of get comfortable with them, so you really believe that RJ is in that place and can work with those sort of things.
Other props as well, like they'd have a shooting cheese gun or the pizza or something like that.
We got to learn how to do pizza. We had to do like a full-on like pizza training course. So I learned now how to make pizzas.
The props on Dino Thunder may be the most impressive that I have ever seen.
It was amazing, you know, in New Zealand how the craftsmanship that those guys have is just fantastic. I mean, they don't have prop houses there, for example. So you can't go and say, you know, I want to rent, you know, a giant chair for the villain to sit in. Let's show me 5 of them. No, they go out there with a hammer and nails and wood, and they build you. Or if you want an ashtray for the specific room, they would make you an ashtray. You know, it's not like they have a prop house, which was really cool and amazing about New Zealand.
There's an episode where I get sucked into a video game, and there's this gadget that I pull out and hook into the keyboard. That's probably one of my favorite ones.
I had a randomizer, I think it was called, where I could genetically make new creatures. That was really fun. There were lots of fun sort of levers and dials and things to turn that were Mesogog friendly. You know, my hand, sometimes I couldn't do things with my hand as well as I would have liked to. I gotta say, I'm not sure if it qualifies as a prop, but the Mesogog chair was probably my favorite. The way that was built as sort of a throne really helped me get into the character. It was one of the first things that I did on the first day of shooting was kind of sat in this chair. And I put my Mesogog claws on there and I sort of rested them and leaned back and I thought, yeah, I'm gonna sit here and people are gonna come to me and I'm just gonna rip them, you know, a new one. This is a good setup. So I think the chair and Mesogog's lair in general was very well done.
Hey, you guys came!
Of course we did.
Helmets. That was my troublesome one, because I thought half the time like they couldn't even fit my head. but you're gonna have to deal with it because it's very, very important. And it used to make my nose look really big because that was so small.
Some people think that I had to wear leather gloves because I have a tattoo here on my wrist. But that is not why I had to wear leather gloves. It's more character-based. Every time he wanted to use his telekinetic powers, he would have to snap off his glove and take it off, wave his hand, feel, do whatever with it. The reason is because the glove contained that telekineticity, and that if he had not worn it, you know, I'd be sitting on this chair and I'd touch the chair and I'd know everyone else that sat on this chair instantaneously, and their memories would overpower me, and so I had to wear these gloves. I love that reason. It was great, and it made my character look badass, but in sweltering heat, having to take on and off a glove, sometimes I'd have to do it very quickly. I'd have to nail a mark. So my hand would have to come in, to flip it around, unclasp this, finger, 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 take it off, do my power, and then be like, putting it on. Oh, is there a scene going on? Oh, I don't hear anything. Okay, I'm ready.
Actually, my least favorite prop, and this might be surprising, was I had a big staff. I had it with me all the time. And the staff was actually really heavy and cumbersome. It was taller than me, and I think it was like steel or lead or something in the middle, although it didn't look like it would be heavy. It was very heavy. The stunt team would come up with these, you know, choreographed moves that I would have to do during a fight scene or something like that. And they're really fluid and graceful, and this staff was always worked into it initially and then promptly dropped because it was really heavy and there's just no way to do that. I don't even know if, you know, the directors or the stunt guys could have done that. So the staff was probably my least favorite because it had to be there because of the storyline, but it was hard to deal with. So definitely my staff was the least favorite.
Working for Saban was a great experience. I enjoyed the crew. Everybody on that show was there and had a great sense of humor, a lot of fun. I miss it. You know, I missed working. As soon as I walked away from Power Rangers, and I had nightmares working on the Prestige, walking up to John Nolan with a Billy Blue telephone going, will this work for, you have those kind of nightmares thinking you want to bring that type of things but onto other films. But I just want to say I enjoyed it. There's a reason why people still love that show. It had some type of, charm that will be around for years to come. And I enjoy doing this. Thank you very much for the interview.